My name is Fabian Garcia, and I am shooting this video because a lot of people have asked me personally what I voted for and who I voted for. Being a person who lives in the city of Los Angeles, living in the state of California, I'm going to go through the ballot propositions that we have to vote on this election, and I'm going to go through the sample ballot and show you which candidates that I personally voted for. If you want to look at these ballot propositions, you can get them at calmatters.org, calmatters.org. And you can check this out for yourself. There's about 10 or so that we have to vote on. Proposition 2 is borrow $10 billion to build schools and colleges. The bond issue will authorize state to borrow $8.5 billion for K-12 schools and $1.5 billion for community college construction and modernization. I voted no on this. And let me tell you why. Every year we get hit with these bond bills. We basically borrow money into the future and we're paying interest on it to build more schools and colleges or something having to do with education. Well, the sad fact is a lot of this money never actually gets to the schools. We are borrowing. We are in a massive budget deficit right now. We had a $100 billion budget surplus under Gavin Newsom just a few years ago. And this year they said we're going to be at about a $60 billion deficit. Now, schools have become managerial and administrative states amongst themselves. And what that means is that our spending per child right now is the most it's ever been. It's around $17,000 per pupil in school. And what are we getting for that? We're getting lower test grades, lower results, less children qualifying for good colleges, and less overall education in the workforce. So I'm not going to give in to this thing we see every single year that says, let's borrow more money, let's borrow more money. It's for the school, it's for education, when we have tons and tons and tons of bloat and so many positions, so many managerial and administrative positions in the California school system that should not be there. And instead of giving the politicians in the state more money to waste, why don't they figure out how to run a more efficient government instead of borrowing and borrowing? Since we had a $100 billion surplus in our budget, and now we have a $60 billion deficit because of Gavin Newsom's policy. So I do not want to give the government any more money to waste. So I'm voting no on proposition number 2. Proposition number 3, reaffirm the right of same-sex couples to marry. Now, what this essentially is, there's some language in the Constitution of California that they want to change. Now, same-sex couples can already get married in California. This is purely symbolic. It has nothing to do with what's going to happen in the law. And the reason why I voted no on this is because same-sex couples already have the right to marry. I don't want to start this thing where every year we have to vote to remove language out of the Constitution of the state just because a few people say it's symbolic. It has no actual structural meaning in law right now. So I don't want to start this thing where we start removing parts of the Constitution because a majority of the state at that one point in time decided on it. So I voted no on Prop 3. Prop 4, borrow $10 billion to respond to climate change. You already know how I voted on this one. I voted a resounding no on this one. Again, this is the exact same thing. This is a bond, meaning we're going to sell bonds to collect funds from anybody, and we're going to pay it back later with interest. So essentially, you're leaving your kids with this bill. You're leaving your future self with this bill. I voted an absolute no, not just because of the climate change aspect, because again, it's borrowing. And this is saying it's $3.5 billion, $3.8 billion for drinking water and groundwater programs, 1.5. This is the same exact thing. The government has had a lot of money. Let them figure out how to balance the budget and stop spending. I mean, Gavin Newsom spent $25 billion on homelessness, $25 billion on homelessness in the last few years. And homelessness actually increased. It increased. Where's all that money going? We have no idea. We have no idea. So I voted no on prop number 4. On prop number 5, lower voter approval requirements. This one I voted no on. And again, this goes back to the same exact thing. If you look here, it would make it easier for local governments to borrow money for affordable housing and some other infrastructure projects by lowering the voter approval requirement from 2/3 to 55%. This is going to make it easier for the government to borrow more. This is the exact same thing. You're going to start seeing a trend follow here. Now on to Prop 6. Prop 6 is limit forced labor in state prisons. And I do want to give you a little bit more insight into this one. So I'm going to actually pop up this screen here where it goes over everything So what will it do? It would amend the Constitution to prohibit the state from punishing inmates with involuntary work assignment and from disciplining those who refuse to work. Instead, state prisons could set up a volunteer assignment program to take time off sentences in the form of credits. It would let the county or the city ordinance set up a pay scale for inmates in local jails. Now, I voted a resounding no on this one. Criminals are in there for a reason. They should do something to pay back society for what they've done, for the injustice and the inequities and whatever they did to other people. I don't want them to be earning money in prison and refusing to work and refusing from being disciplined to work. Now, this isn't modern day slavery. These are people who committed a crime, who are in prison, who I believe should be working to restitute the state and the people that it hurt. So I voted a no on Prop 6. Prop 32, raise the state minimum wage to $18 an hour. We just saw what happened when Gavin Newsom required all fast food chains to raise the minimum wage drastically higher. Now, this one I voted a no again, because we've seen that all that's happened when we raise the minimum wage on all these businesses. What do? They close shop. They move to other states. They cannot compete in a market where you don't allow the free market to do what it needs to do. That's the entire point of capitalism. It's a mechanism to find the prices for things. That's what the stock market is. When the government intervenes in that, it's no longer a free market. I mean, it hasn't been a free market in quite a long time, but I don't want to give more regulation to stifle more businesses, to kill the state, to kill businesses, or to make them move out of the state. No on Prop 32. Prop 33, allow local governments to impose rent controls. Again, I don't want the government setting prices on things, just like I don't like Kamala Harris's policy on price gouging, on making people sell things for certain amounts. Because there are so many regulations in the state that it's incredibly expensive and it takes a very, very long time to build anything in the state. So I am voting no on Prop 33 because I don't want to give governments, local governments at this point, even more control on what prices should be. Proposition 34 requires certain providers to use prescription drugs revenues for patients. Let's go ahead and go to the Learn More section here. Since 1992, federal law has given healthcare providers a deal. Serve low-income and at-risk patients and get a discount on pharmaceuticals. Providers that make use of this program can turn around and sell these drugs at retail rates. Their profits can be then used to expand their healthcare services to disadvantaged groups. Prop 34 will require some California providers to spend at least 98% on that net drug sale revenue on direct patient care. Now, you can go and you can see who is for it and who's against it. And you can see that the supporters here are the California Apartment Association, Howard Jarvis Taxpayer Association, the California Republican Party, and the opponents of it are the AIDS Foundation and the Consumer Watchdog. I voted yes on Prop 34. Prop 35, make permanent a tax on managed healthcare plans. I voted no. I don't want permanent taxes anywhere. So simply, I voted no on Prop 35, based off the entire point that it's going to make a permanent tax on managed healthcare plans. No. Prop 36, this is the big one. This is what everyone's talking about. This is one that has 70% support by the people, even though Gavin Newsom has come out against this. This is going to make things like they were before we had this massive and rampant, what do they call them, sack and grabs or whatever, where people are stealing things out of stores because as long as it's under $950, it's only a misdemeanor. This is going to change that back to the way it was, where it says that it will be a felony to steal $950 of merchandise out of a store. Is a very common sense, logical approach to crime where you actually prosecute people doing things illegally. So I voted yes on Prop 36. Now, on to the ballot that you're going to receive. This is where you're going to see all of the people that you're voting for. Yours may look different than mine because you're in a different district, different city. So if you live in California, the last section was for you. If you live in Los Angeles, this section is for you specifically. Now, I'm not going to go through all these because I don't know all these people, but I'm going to tell you who I did vote for. So what I did is I basically voted down ballot Republicans. California has been ruled by, I'm going to say ruled by Democrats for a very long time. I believe the last Republican governor we had was Arnold Schwarzenegger, and even don't want to talk about him right now. So I voted Republican pretty much down ballot, but there are some people who I do want to mention. Alex Balekian running for the representative for the 30th district. against Laura Friedman. I just had Alex on. You can check out the video here on my YouTube or on my Instagram. Great person. I am supporting Alex Balekian for the 30th district, that's Congress, to take over Adam Schiff's seat. And the next, and this is a very, very important decision to make, is district attorney. Now, if you live in California and you live especially in Los Angeles, you understand what's happened with crime in the last 4 years especially. Things have gotten very bad, deteriorated. Let me tell you, the person who is responsible for this is this guy here, George Gascon. This is a George Soros-funded district attorney who was put into power by Gavin Newsom in San Francisco when it was him, Kamala Harris, and George Gascon running that city into the ground. Now, George Gascon went from being the district attorney of San Francisco to being the district attorney of Los Angeles, and we see what's happened under his watch. He refuses to prosecute crime. This is part of the reason why Prop 36 is on the ballot, because he just stopped prosecuting anyone who stole less than $950. He's a proponent of zero cash bail, meaning you let the people out on the street, even though they've been charged with the crime. In between the time where they're charged with a crime and when they have their court date, he's letting them out. These people are committing more crimes, committing murders when they should have been behind bars. I had Nathan Hochman on the show just a few weeks ago. Incredible guy. He's a registered independent and he supports Kamala for president. I think he has to say that because you're running in Los Angeles, but he's a very strong proponent of actually prosecuting crime. 98% of all of the district attorneys that work under George Gascon basically don't support him. Okay, it's incredible. Nathan Hochman is who I voted for district attorney. Vote for Nathan Hochman. Next, I want to go to the U.S. State Senator. I am voting again down ballot Republicans. Adam Schiff is a terrible person. He's a person who Alex Balekian is replacing. Adam Schiff was a congressman. He's now running for Senate. And in his seat, Alex Balekian is running against Friedman. So I'm supporting Alex Balekian. He is now running for Senate, which I do not want him as Senate. He's a terrible congressman. Absolutely horrendous. So I am voting Steve Garvey for Senate. So Steve Garvey for Senate. And of course, you already know who I voted for president. That's how I voted. Thank you for sticking around. There's a lot more videos here on the YouTube channel or wherever you're checking us out at. So feel free to browse and make sure that you subscribe and like the video.